True strength begins when you stop expecting others to carry your burdens. For most of us, this lesson doesn't come easily. It often takes years of leaning on others, waiting for people to rescue us, before we realize that the people we thought would be there forever can't always carry the weight we hand them. And even when they want to help, they can't walk our path for us. Every single one of us has a journey designed in such a way that only we can walk it. Your struggles, your challenges, your pain, it is yours. And until you learn to own it, you will always feel disappointed when others fail to show up the way you hoped. When you stop expecting friends, family, or anyone else to lift your burdens, you step into a kind of strength that changes everything. Think about how often people crumble under unmet expectations. You counted on someone to call when you were hurting, but they didn't. You leaned on someone to help with your dreams, but they backed away. You expected loyalty, but life got in the way. Each disappointment chips away at your sense of security until you're left bitter, resentful, and even angry. The truth is, it's not that people don't care. It's that they have their own struggles, their own burdens to carry. Just as you can't always show up perfectly for others, they can't always show up perfectly for you. The moment you accept that, you free yourself. Strength isn't about pretending you don't need anyone. It's about knowing that even if everyone walks away, you will still rise. It's about trusting yourself enough to say, "This is my burden, and I will carry it." When you stop outsourcing your strength to others, you develop a deep confidence in yourself. You stop living in fear of being abandoned because you know you can handle life whether people are with you or not. That kind of independence is unshakable. Imagine climbing a mountain. At the bottom, you may want your friends to carry your backpack, share your load, and hold your hand through every steep path. But halfway up, you'll notice that everyone is carrying their own pack, everyone is gasping for air, and everyone is trying to survive the climb. You realize in that moment that your strength comes not from how much others help you, but from how much you can endure on your own. That's what life is. Your mountain is yours to climb. Yes, others may walk beside you. Yes, they may cheer you on, but no one can carry you to the top. There's a strange kind of beauty in carrying your own burdens. At first, it feels heavy, unfair, even exhausting. But the more you carry, the stronger you become. Muscles of resilience, patience, and determination form where weakness once existed. Every time you face a trial and stand through it, you become less dependent on anyone else's strength. You realize that you don't break as easily as you thought. You can handle loneliness. You can handle setbacks. You can handle silence from people you expected to support you. And once you know this, fear loses its grip. Depending on others for strength also puts your happiness in someone else's hands. When you lean too heavily on people, your joy is tied to their presence. If they leave, you collapse. If they don't meet your needs, you feel empty. But when you learn to rely on yourself, your happiness becomes self-made. You don't wait for people to validate you. You don't wait for people to encourage you. You don't wait for people to show up. You take responsibility for your own healing, your own growth, and your own future. That is freedom. People often confuse independence with isolation, but they are not the same. Independence doesn't mean shutting others out. It means not collapsing if they fail you. It's knowing you are whole even when you walk alone. When you carry your own burdens, you can actually enjoy friendships more because you're not secretly depending on them for survival. You don't look at friends as crutches. You look at them as companions. You stop needing them to solve your problems and instead value them for who they are. This shift makes your relationships healthier and lighter because they are built on love and respect, not hidden expectations. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are not those who had constant support, but those who learned to stand tall when no one was there. They discovered something deep. Inner strength is not built in crowds, but in solitude. It is built in the moments when you wanted someone to rescue you, but no one came. It is built in the nights you cried alone and got up anyway. It is built in the mornings when you faced battles no one knew about, yet you fought them with courage. These moments forge a strength that dependency can never give. When you stop expecting others to carry your burdens, you also stop resenting them when they don't. This creates peace. You accept people for who they are instead of who you wish they would be. And you stop measuring their love by how much they can save you. Instead, you learn to save yourself. You learn to become your own anchor in the storm, and once you do, no wave can sink you. So the next time you find yourself leaning too hard on a friend, ask, am I expecting them to carry what only I can carry? If the answer is yes, step back. Take that weight into your own hands. It may feel heavy, but remember, strength is built under pressure. The more you rely on yourself, the lighter the burden becomes. Because you realize you were never meant to be carried, you were meant to rise. Friendship is companionship, not responsibility. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about relationships. Too often, we hand over the weight of our lives to the people around us, believing that because they care for us, they must carry us too. But friendship was never meant to be a substitute for self-reliance. It was meant to be a shared journey, not a rescue mission. Your friends can walk beside you, they can encourage you, they can even give you a hand when you stumble, but they cannot and should not be expected to live your life for you. When you confuse companionship with responsibility, you set yourself up for disappointment. You start to believe that a good friend should always be available, should always say yes, should always prioritize your needs over their own. And when they don't, you feel betrayed. But the truth is, friendship doesn't erase individuality. Your friends have their own goals, dreams, fears, and responsibilities. They are not living life as a supporting character in your story. They're living their own. Expecting them to constantly put aside their burdens to carry yours is not friendship, it's dependence disguised as love. Healthy friendships are rooted in freedom. They thrive when both people feel safe to come and go, to give and take without obligation or guilt. Think about the relationships that have lasted in your life. Chances are, they weren't the ones where you clung the tightest or demanded the most. They were the ones where there was mutual respect and space to breathe. Your friend wasn't responsible for making you happy, and you weren't responsible for carrying their entire load. Instead, you chose to share pieces of the journey together, and that choice is what made the bond meaningful. There is a powerful shift that happens when you stop seeing your friends as lifelines and start seeing them as companions. Suddenly, you release them from the burden of having to fix you. You stop demanding that they always be available, and you allow them to be human. And in return, you give yourself permission to be more self-reliant. This doesn't weaken the friendship, it strengthens it. Because real connection is not born out of desperation, but out of freedom. Let's put this into perspective. Imagine you're walking down a long road. A friend joins you on that road for a while. They laugh with you, they listen, they even help you carry some things when you're tired. But eventually, they may turn off onto a different path. That doesn't make them a bad friend. It makes them a traveler with their own destination. Your responsibility was never to keep them by your side forever, just as their responsibility was never to carry you the whole way. The beauty of friendship lies in the shared steps, not in an eternal contract of obligation. Many people get hurt because they believe friends them something. They keep mental scorecards. I was there for them, so they must be there for me. But friendship isn't a transaction. It's not about debt or repayment. It's about choice. The moment you force someone into responsibility, you've shifted the relationship from love to obligation. And obligation breeds resentment, but companionship breeds joy. This is why friendships often fall apart when one person leans too heavily on the other. The weight becomes too much and the relationship cracks under pressure. But when you take responsibility for your own life and allow your friends the freedom to simply be with you, without the burden of carrying you, your bond becomes lighter, more authentic, and more lasting. There's also great dignity in refusing to make others responsible for your happiness. It shows maturity and self-awareness. It communicates to your friends, I value your presence, but I don't demand your rescue. This kind of attitude draws people closer because they feel respected, not used. Everyone wants to feel that they are appreciated for who they are, not for what they can provide. Even in moments of struggle, when friends do step in to help, it should be seen as a gift, not a requirement. A friend may support you financially during a hard season, or sit with you in silence when your heart is breaking. But these moments are acts of grace, not obligations. And when you view them this way, your gratitude deepens, and your respect for the friendship grows. On the other hand, if you constantly expect your friends to carry you, you'll end up draining them. And drained people pull away. They don't want to feel like they're always rescuing someone who refuses to stand. That doesn't make them bad people. It makes them human. By taking full responsibility for your life, you prevent your friendships from becoming lopsided and fragile. Companionship means with company. It means someone chooses to be in your presence, to share time, laughter, and even sorrow. But it never meant that they should put their entire life on hold for you. It never meant they must sacrifice themselves to keep you afloat. The sooner you accept this, the healthier your relationships will become. So ask yourself, have you been confusing companionship with responsibility? Have you placed expectations on friends that were never theirs to fulfill? If so, it's time to reset your perspective. Appreciate the gift of companionship, but never demand the burden of responsibility. Let your friends be companions on the road of life, not carriers of your entire journey. Because when you walk your path with strength and allow others to walk beside you out of love, not duty, you experience friendship in its purest and most beautiful form. The danger of dependence is that it makes you forget your own power. When you lean too heavily on others, emotionally, mentally, or even physically, you gradually surrender the ability to stand on your own. It doesn't happen overnight, it happens in small, almost invisible ways. You start by asking for advice on simple decisions. Then you wait for someone else's approval before taking action. Eventually, you find yourself paralyzed, unable to move forward unless someone tells you it's okay. This is what dependence does. It trains you to doubt yourself and to overvalue the opinions and actions of others. At first, depending on others feels comforting. There's security in knowing someone will listen, will help, or will carry the weight when you can't. But the problem arises when this reliance becomes your default response to life. Instead of building resilience, you build dependency. Instead of cultivating strength, you cultivate fragility. You lose sight of the truth that your mind, your decisions, and your spirit are capable of far more than you realize. And when life inevitably strips you of those people, when they get busy, drift away, or simply cannot help, you're left feeling helpless. Dependence breeds disappointment. No matter how loyal someone is, no one can consistently meet the unspoken demands of another person. If you lean on them to be your emotional anchor, they will eventually drift. If you rely on them to carry your ambitions, they will eventually tire. And when they fail to meet your expectations, bitterness creeps in. You feel betrayed, abandoned, or unloved. But the real problem is not their absence. The real problem is the misplaced trust you put in them to do a job only you were ever meant to do. True growth begins when you stop outsourcing your strength. Every time you choose to sit in silence with your own thoughts instead of calling someone to distract you, you build endurance. Every time you make a decision without waiting for someone's permission, you reclaim confidence. Every time you face pain head on instead of leaning on another person to numb it, you deepen your resilience. These small acts of independence compound over time until you no longer feel desperate for someone to carry you. You realize you are enough to carry yourself. Consider this: the people you admire most, the ones who inspire you, are rarely the ones who leaned on others at every turn. They are the ones who built something within themselves that couldn't be shaken, no matter who stayed or left. They may have accepted help along the way, but their identity, their strength, and their sense of direction weren't rooted in another person. They weren't afraid of walking alone if they had to. That is the power of independence. There's also a hidden danger in overdependence. It limits your relationships. When you constantly rely on people to fill your gaps, your friendships and connections become transactional. People don't feel free to be themselves around you, they feel burdened. Instead of coming to you with joy, they come with hesitation because they know your needs will outweigh the natural flow of the relationship. Over time, this pressure can push them away. Ironically, the very dependence that was meant to keep people close ends up driving them out of your life. When you release others from the responsibility of holding you up, something beautiful happens. Your relationships transform. Instead of being rooted in need, they're rooted in choice. People show up for you because they want to, not because they feel they have to. That kind of bond is far stronger. It's lighter, freer, and more authentic. And it gives you the gift of knowing that those who walk beside you are there out of love, not obligation. It's not that you must become cold, detached, or unreachable. Humans are wired for connection, and asking for help at times is part of being human. But there's a crucial difference between support and dependence. Support is a temporary lift. A friend helps you through a storm, then you walk again. Dependence, on the other hand, is handing over your legs and expecting them to walk your journey for you. And that's not only unfair to them, it robs you of your own growth. Life will always present challenges, setbacks, and moments of pain. But in every one of those moments, you are capable of finding your footing. You may stumble, but you can rise. You may feel weak, but strength grows in the act of rising, not in the act of waiting for someone else to pull you up. The sooner you believe in your ability to handle life without leaning on others, the sooner you'll discover just how powerful you truly are. So the real question isn't whether people will be there for you. Some will, some won't, and some will come and go. The real question is whether you will be there for yourself. Will you have your own back when the noise quiets and the crowd fades? Will you cultivate the resilience to keep walking even if you walk alone for a while? That is the essence of freedom. Dependency is a trap disguised as comfort. It promises security but delivers fragility. Independence, on the other hand, may feel frightening at first, but it leads to unshakable strength. And when you stop leaning on others to do the work of your own life, you begin to realize that no one was ever supposed to be your permanent anchor. You were meant to be your own. One of the most dangerous illusions people fall into is the belief that others are responsible for their happiness. It's subtle, almost invisible at first, but it creeps into the way you think, the way you plan, and the way you live. You start believing that your joy depends on how someone treats you, how much attention they give you, or how consistently they show up. When you attach your sense of worth and fulfillment to other people's behavior, you've placed your life in someone else's hands. That's not friendship, it's captivity. And captivity, no matter how comfortable, always ends in disappointment. The truth is, no one can carry the weight of your happiness. People have their own lives, their own struggles, and their own burdens. Even the most well-meaning friend or partner cannot consistently be the source of your joy because they are not perfect. They will forget, they will fail, they will have days when they cannot give you what you need. And when that happens, if your identity and joy are tied to them, you're left empty, resentful, and broken. That emptiness doesn't come from their failure. It comes from giving them a job they were never qualified to do. When you learn to take full responsibility for your own happiness, you stop handing people the power to control you. Imagine two people walking together. One expects the other to keep them balanced, while the other walks freely on their own. Who is more stable? The one who has trained themselves to stand tall without leaning. That's what personal responsibility does. It gives you balance in a world where people will inevitably shift, change, or walk away. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you cut yourself off from love or connection. It doesn't mean you stop enjoying companionship, laughter, or care. It simply means you anchor yourself first. You decide that your peace will not rise and fall with someone else's mood. You decide that your joy will not collapse because someone failed to text you back. You decide that your future will not be put on hold because you're waiting for someone to validate your dreams. This shift may feel small, but it's revolutionary. It moves you from being a passenger in life to being the driver. People often misunderstand this concept. They think, if I don't depend on others, doesn't that mean I'll be lonely? But the opposite is true. When you stop placing unrealistic expectations on people to fulfill you, you actually free them to be who they are. Your relationships become lighter, more genuine, more joyful. You're no longer clinging out of need, you're connecting out of choice. And when people know they're chosen, not used, they show up more fully, more authentically. There's incredible freedom in not needing someone else to make you whole. Think about it. How many relationships collapse because of unmet expectations? How many friendships fracture because one person demands too much from the other? Most of the pain people feel in relationships doesn't come from malice, it comes from misplaced responsibility. When you expect another human being to be your constant source of happiness, you've already set both of you up for failure. But when you own your joy, your peace, and your stability, you come into every relationship full, not empty. And fullness attracts fullness. The process of taking responsibility isn't easy. It requires honesty, the kind that forces you to admit how much you've been leaning on others. It requires courage, the kind that makes you stand up even when it feels shaky. And it requires consistency, the kind that keeps you returning to yourself every time you're tempted to outsource your strength. But every step you take in this direction makes you stronger. You begin to notice that small disappointments no longer crush you, arguments no longer destroy you, and rejection no longer defines you. Why? Because you've built a foundation within yourself that no one else can touch. It's important to understand that life will test this independence. There will be moments when the loneliness feels heavy, when you wish someone could just carry it all for you. And in those moments, it's tempting to slip back into dependence. But remind yourself, no one else can live your life for you. No one else can fight your battles. No one else can make you whole. That is your work, and it is sacred work. Every time you rise to meet it, you become less fragile, less needy, and more powerful. Think of happiness as a fire. If you rely on others to bring you matches, you'll forever be shivering in the cold, waiting for someone to show up. But if you learn to strike your own spark, you'll never be without warmth. People can come and share in your fire, but they won't be the reason it burns. That is the difference between dependence and self-responsibility. One leaves you at the mercy of others. The other ensures that no matter who stays or leaves, your light continues to shine. The truth is, people will disappoint you, not because they are bad, but because they are human. If you tie your happiness to their behavior, you doom yourself to constant cycles of joy and despair. But if you tie your happiness to your own choices, your own discipline, and your own perspective, you create stability in a world that is anything but stable. And stability is power. Stability is freedom. So stop asking people to be your savior. Stop demanding that they complete you. Stop expecting them to heal wounds they didn't create. Take back the responsibility that has always belonged to you. Learn to build joy from within, to find peace in your own presence, to cultivate strength in your own silence. That's how you grow beyond dependence. That's how you stop being controlled by who shows up and who doesn't. That's how you become unshakable. Because at the end of the day, no one else is responsible for your happiness, and no one else ever will be. That responsibility is yours, and once you accept it, you'll never again have to beg for peace or borrow joy. You'll know that it was within you all along. Resilience is not built in the easy moments of life. It's forged in the fire of challenges, disappointments, and loneliness. When you stop relying on others to lift you every time you fall, you begin to discover a strength you never knew existed. Inner resilience is not about never feeling pain, but about knowing that no matter what happens, you have the capacity to rise again. And that is a kind of power no one can give you or take away. Most people go through life leaning on others for stability, expecting their friends, partners, or families to catch them every time they stumble. While companionship can be beautiful, the danger lies in making it a crutch. Because when that crutch is taken away, when people leave, when they change, or when they fail, you collapse. True resilience begins when you stop waiting for someone to rescue you and start building the muscles to stand on your own. It is the process of becoming your own safety net. Think of resilience as an inner armor. Life will always throw arrows, betrayals, failures, rejections, setbacks. If you are dependent on others for protection, every arrow will pierce you. But when you have cultivated resilience, those arrows may sting, but they will not break you. You develop the ability to absorb life's shocks without losing yourself. And the beautiful part is, the more you practice resilience, the stronger your armor becomes. Resilience is built in everyday choices. It's choosing to face discomfort instead of running from it. It's choosing to learn from mistakes instead of blaming others. It's choosing to find solutions instead of waiting for someone else to fix your problems. Each time you choose responsibility over dependence, your inner strength expands. Over time, this becomes your natural response, not panic, not despair, not helplessness, but calm, steady determination. There is a quiet confidence in people who are resilient. They don't need to scream to prove their strength. It shows in the way they handle storms. While others may crumble when life doesn't go their way, resilient people adapt. They bend, but they don't break. They suffer, but they don't surrender. And this strength doesn't just benefit them. It inspires everyone around them. People gravitate to those who radiate stability, who show that even in chaos, peace is possible. But here's what makes resilience unique. It isn't about hardening yourself to the world. It isn't about becoming cold or shutting people out. True resilience is flexible. It allows you to remain open, loving, and vulnerable, even after you've been hurt, because you know your worth isn't defined by anyone's actions. You no longer crumble when others fail you, because your foundation isn't built on them. It's built within you. When you stop depending on others, your confidence begins to multiply. You start to realize that the things you once thought you couldn't survive, betrayal, heartbreak, rejection, you actually can. You learn that pain doesn't destroy you, it teaches you. You discover that disappointment isn't the end, it's a redirection. And every time you overcome something you thought you couldn't, your trust in yourself grows. That trust is the essence of resilience. Imagine walking into every relationship, every job, every challenge knowing, no matter what happens, I can handle it. That kind of self-assurance changes everything. It removes fear from your decisions because you're no longer terrified of falling apart if things go wrong. It frees you from clinging to toxic relationships because you're not afraid of being alone. It empowers you to take risks, to grow, to expand, because you know that even if you stumble, you won't stay down. Resilience also protects you from manipulation. People cannot control someone who doesn't need them to survive. If your happiness, peace, and stability are rooted within yourself, no one can use them against you. You're no longer swayed by guilt, emotional blackmail, or the fear of abandonment. Instead, you stand grounded because you know that even if everyone else walks away, you still have you, and that is enough. But resilience isn't built overnight. It comes from making the choice again and again to face life as it is, without shortcuts. It means sitting with pain instead of numbing it. It means holding yourself accountable instead of blaming others. It means practicing patience, discipline, and self-care until they become habits. Every struggle becomes training, every setback becomes preparation, and every victory, no matter how small, reinforces the truth: you are stronger than you think. One of the greatest gifts resilience gives you is freedom. When you know you can endure life's storms, you stop living in fear of them. You no longer cling to people or circumstances out of desperation because you know you'll survive with or without them. You love freely because your love isn't tied to fear. You pursue dreams boldly because your worth isn't tied to success or failure. You live with a sense of calm, knowing that no matter what life takes away, it cannot take away your strength. At its core, resilience is about trust. Trusting that life may hurt you, but it won't destroy you. Trusting that you can rise no matter how many times you fall. Trusting that within you lies an endless capacity to rebuild, to grow, and to thrive. And when you stop leaning on others and start leaning on that truth, you become unshakable. The journey of resilience is lifelong. You will always be tested. But every test is an opportunity to strengthen the foundation within you. And every time you choose to rely on yourself instead of waiting for someone else, you prove again that you are more powerful than you realized. That is the gift of resilience. That is the power of standing on your own 2 feet. And once you experience it, you'll never again want to live any other way. The irony of relationships is this: the less you depend on them for survival, the healthier and stronger they become. Most people enter friendships or partnerships with unspoken contracts. They expect constant reassurance, emotional rescue, and unending validation. And when those needs aren't met, they feel betrayed, abandoned, or unloved. But here's the truth: no friendship, no matter how deep, can survive under the weight of unrealistic expectations. True friendships thrive when you free them from the burden of keeping you alive. When you stop relying on others to complete you, you create space for authenticity. Think about it. If every time your friend doesn't answer a call you feel ignored, then the friendship is chained to your insecurity. If every time they forget a small detail, you see it as proof they don't care, then the bond becomes suffocated by your dependence. But when your sense of peace is already intact, their actions no longer carry that weight. They are free to be human, to forget, to be busy, to have flaws, without it shaking the foundation of your connection. That freedom allows the relationship to breathe. Friendship, at its purest, is a choice. It's not about obligation, it's about two people who want to walk beside each other, not carry each other. When you don't need someone to survive, you can truly appreciate them for who they are, not for what they give you. And when someone feels seen and valued for themselves, not for the role they play in keeping you afloat, they are far more likely to show up with loyalty, love, and sincerity. It transforms the relationship from dependency into mutual respect. This doesn't mean isolating yourself. It doesn't mean you stop leaning on friends during hard times. It means you stop expecting them to do the work of your own soul. A friend can comfort you, but they cannot heal you. They can encourage you, but they cannot build your confidence. They can stand with you in the storm, but they cannot make you weatherproof. That responsibility belongs to you alone. The beauty of understanding this truth is that it actually strengthens the bond. Because now, every time a friend shows up, it's not because you demanded it, it's because they chose to. And chosen love is always stronger than obligated love. There's a profound shift that happens when you no longer see friendship as a lifeline, but as a gift. Suddenly, you stop keeping score. You stop measuring who called who helped who showed up more. Instead, you enjoy the connection for what it is. Some days, your friend will give more. Other days, you will, but because you're not keeping a tally sheet, resentment never builds. You allow the natural flow of give and take without attaching it to your identity. This balance is what makes relationships sustainable over time. Overdependence, on the other hand, kills relationships slowly. It starts with small expectations. They should have remembered my birthday, or they should have checked on me. But those expectations pile up until the friendship becomes more about demands than about joy. Eventually, the other person feels drained, like no matter what they do, it's never enough, and drained people distance themselves. This is why so many friendships dissolve, not because of betrayal, but because the weight of unspoken expectations became unbearable. When you take ownership of your emotional stability, you remove that weight. You become easier to love, easier to be around, easier to trust. People are drawn to those who radiate wholeness because they know they won't be trapped in constant cycles of guilt and obligation. In fact, the strongest friendships often form between two people who are already strong on their own. They don't cling to each other out of fear, they walk together out of choice. And that kind of bond is nearly unbreakable. Another gift of not depending on friends for survival is that it makes you more discerning. When you're desperate for connection, you accept anyone who gives you attention, even if they're toxic, unreliable, or unworthy. But when you know you're already whole, you don't need to settle for crumbs. You can choose friendships based on shared values, loyalty, and mutual respect, not on your own insecurity. This shift ensures that the people in your life are there because they truly add value, not because you're afraid of being alone. It also makes forgiveness easier. When you're not dependent on someone to hold you together, their mistakes don't feel like betrayals of your existence. A forgotten message doesn't wound you deeply. A canceled plan doesn't make you spiral into doubt. You can see their humanity without attaching it to your worth. This maturity allows you to handle conflicts with grace instead of drama, patience instead of panic, and conflicts handled with grace build stronger, deeper connections. True friendships thrive when they are rooted in freedom, the freedom to be imperfect, the freedom to grow at different paces, the freedom to show up not because they must, but because they want to. When both people carry themselves with self-reliance, their time together becomes lighter, more joyful, and far more meaningful. There is no desperation, no silent contract, no resentment. There is only choice, and choice is what makes love, whether platonic or romantic, last. So stop depending on others to complete you. Complete yourself, and then invite others to share in the overflow. Stop clinging to friendships as lifeboats. Build your own ship and let your friends sail beside you. Stop demanding that people carry your happiness. Carry it yourself and let them enjoy walking beside someone who shines without needing to be fueled. Because in the end, the friendships that last the longest, the ones that truly thrive, are not built on need. They're built on freedom, on respect, and on choice. And when you no longer depend on friends for survival, you give them the greatest gift of all, the freedom to love you without conditions, without weight, without fear. That's when friendship stops being fragile and starts being forever. So here's the truth we've uncovered together. No one is your friend in the way you've been taught to believe. They can care for you, support you, and walk beside you. But they cannot save you, carry you, or complete you. And if you spend your life waiting for someone to do what only you can, you will always feel disappointed, always feel let down, always feel fragile. But when you take full responsibility for yourself, something powerful happens. You stop handing people the keys to your peace. You stop expecting them to fill voids they cannot touch. You stop leaning on them for survival, and instead you stand tall on your own 2 feet. And from that place of independence, resilience, and inner strength, you discover that your relationships actually become richer. Because when you no longer need someone, you can finally choose them, and chosen bonds are always stronger than desperate ones. Remember, true strength is not found in being surrounded by friends. It's found in knowing that even if everyone walks away, you will not crumble. True resilience is not about cutting people off, it's about building such a solid foundation within yourself that no storm, no betrayal, no disappointment can shake you. True freedom is not avoiding relationships, it's enjoying them without dependence. So stop expecting others to be your savior. Stop waiting for someone to rescue you. Stop giving away the power that was always yours. Instead, build it, claim it, and own it. Learn to create your own happiness, to find peace within your own silence, to rise every time life tries to knock you down. And here's the beautiful paradox: when you no longer depend on others, that's when your friendships, your love, and your connections truly begin to thrive. Because they are no longer chains that bind you. They are wings that let you soar. At the end of the day, no one else is your foundation. You are, and when you embrace that truth, you become unstoppable, unshakable, and free.